Everybody. Just letting the systems catch up here. And once we're live on all of our channels, we will commence our live stream today. Just like to demonstrate that I'm here and I'm showing up and discussing these things with you. And sometimes it just takes a few seconds delay in order for us to be live. So welcome everyone. Today's Career Happy Hour. I'm Andrew Beach. I'm an executive coach. I am a teacher of self-education. I help professionals like you communicate your value to find great opportunities faster, whether you're working or not. That's through a pragmatic process of branding, planning, and effective networking. So that's how we go to market. And that's part of this community. And what we actually provide here today is a context, how would you say it? A way for us to get together and say hello. And the way we do that actually is by putting our LinkedIn profile in the chat. That allows all of us to be accessible. Let me make sure that the chat is working and just wish you a welcome. And hopefully that should pop on the screen. There we go. So if you're joining us, regardless of where it's from, you can always let us know where you're joining from or say hello. Or even better, you can put your LinkedIn profile in the chat, whether you're joining us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I guess Twitter has made a decision to do away with Periscope Live. So we will in some ways be using Periscope accounts, or anyway, so we'll somehow be doing live broadcasts on Twitter here as soon as I figure out how to set that up. So I just have to validate that account, and then hopefully we will have, because I don't see any of the chats from Periscope coming through. So that said, today's Career Happy Hour. Every week, 3 o'clock Pacific time, you and I can get together here on this platform, this wonderful broadcasting platform, and we can support each other. This is an opportunity for us to say yes when it comes to the networking. If I put a LinkedIn profile in the chat, what I'm signifying to others here is that I'm open to, and I will say yes when they ask, to network with me. It's hard enough in today's economy, in today's world. Everybody's feeling isolated, to get the networking done, to actually perform and actually engage in networking. It takes some effort. I'm trying to remove some of those barriers here by encouraging you to join us in this Career Happy Hour. And so what I'd like to see is a couple things. First, put your LinkedIn profile in the chat if you're open to that. I recognize some people are not. And if you'd prefer, you can, as a secondary process here, let me get to the right thing here, is that any questions that you have, you can put in the chat, regardless of the platform that it comes from. Likely it'll end up here at Restream, and we'll have an opportunity to answer those questions live for you. So please, by all means, put your questions in the chat. I am happy to answer any questions you have regarding career, interviewing, market planning, how to find jobs that aren't posted, resume if you must. Anything related to career, professionalism, trends in the marketplace. We'll be talking some news here in just a moment. I do like to peruse the LinkedIn news and see what's top of mind for those on the platform, just so we can have a record of where we've come from and where we're going, and to see how we can interpret, or at least utilize, some of the news that we're receiving to find opportunities. By opportunity, I mean, it could be bad news leads to opportunity for you because that's your specialty, or vice versa. Maybe a company is expanding and that leads to opportunity for you. Either way, there's always opportunity available. Now, some of you may not be excited, super excited about sharing, private questions or making that public, or, you're just kind of hanging out in the background here on the stream, and that's fine. You can always come into the green room here. There's a link in the description, regardless of which platform you're joining by, that says, hey, join me live. That actually puts you in the green room. It puts you in the back end of the stream. You don't have to come on live if you don't want to, but it is a good place for you to leave a question that you might want to have be anonymous. And that would allow you then to be a resource, or at least available to people in that way. Oh, it looks like we have Mitchell in here. I don't know if Mitchell. So if you do come in here and you don't want people to know that you're in here, don't put your name in. Put like anonymous, anonymous. So, but we can hit Mitchell here in just a minute. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that name right. for Mitchell. And then certainly, if you could please, whatever platform you're joining from, share this broadcast out. We want to expand our reach so that more and more people can be networking with each other and finding opportunities. So that said, looks like we have Mitchell in here. Why don't we bring Mitchell on and see what he's all about here? Here, Mitchell, is that?
Hey, yeah,
it is Mitchell, right?
it is Mitchell.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't anticipating coming up onto some sort of a stage and talking. I was just going to join, but
yeah,
here I am.
Yeah. So, what's on your mind? What drew you to the
Um,
stream, and how can I answer questions for you today?
Well, it might not fit with the rest of the audience, but I was actually
Okay.
hoping to reach out to you at some point because I work with a software company that actually builds software for career coaches.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe take it offline and have a conversation with you sometime.
Building software. That
Mhm.
means you need software developers, right?
Well, that's
Maybe.
the case. Yeah, actually, we just hired a couple of them, and we're probably interested in some more over the next few months.
Yeah. Or you might need to hire salespeople, right?
That's totally correct. Yeah.
So sometimes you come into these positions and you think, oh, I'm looking to take something, when in reality, it's an opportunity for you to give something.
That might be the case. Yeah.
So,
We're a small team, right? But
Mhm.
there is an element of hyper growth that does happen at a point where you get funding, right? We're completely bootstrapped. And so maybe some of the people in the audience would be someone that's interested in
being an investor. You never know what's going to happen when you put energy into the marketplace. So I applaud you for your courage, and to come on here and actually make that available, I think is admirable. So what is your biggest challenge right now?
Really getting the word out, because it's completely bootstrapped. Now I'm not the founder. I was an early employee. I was the first employee not to have come over from an internal product, because this was an internal product for a resume writing company. And so it's really built around a customer portal existing on one side of a workflow, and then a professional writer, coach, whatever it may be, working on the other side of that workflow. And so from the purchase, there becomes an automated process. Whatever you build out the workflow to be, they work together, having the ability to chat with one another, having the ability to complete modules together. They work together to be able to complete whatever the order is, whatever the project is that they're working on. So like for career coaching, it might be an ongoing multiple meeting type of a scenario.
Right.
And
how did you get into the company? What was that process like for you?
I was actually a user experience designer looking for a role. And when they reached out to me about doing my resume, it was the parent company that this smaller company, Rightsy, had grown out of, right? And so they reached out to me, and I just said, hey, I'm not interested in having a professional do my resume at this time, but if you did this, that, and the other on this sales call, you might win my business later down the road. Oh, and by the way, this is what I do for work. I design processes. I design software. And he said to me, we might have a project, because I said, by the way, I'm looking for a job. So if you could help me out with something, right?
Well, isn't everybody looking for a job
these days? Or well, most of the time, you're right. Yeah.
Well, maybe it should be, right? Should be always looking for a job.
Yes.
Not that you're looking to leave your job or quit your job or any of those things, but we should always be open. So again, I would say, from my perspective, keeping your eyes and ears open, it allowed you to have that opportunity and to be willing to the potential and possibility of that situation. So good on you.
When I describe it, I like to say they were trying to sell me something. I sold them me.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I mean, that's a quality that a lot of people don't have. I mean, and having the confidence in yourself and your abilities to be able to say that to somebody is saying a lot, and that should serve you well for the rest of your career.
Thanks.
So what would make your day, your life, your situation a little bit easier today?
Well, I mean, one piece is if you have an audience like you do, and we get on that one-on-one call at some point in the future, well, that would make not only today, but maybe the next few months and years even better. Because I mentioned user experience design, right? I noticed there was a gap in the company to where we didn't have a voice of the customer, leading to the development team having deliverables based on that. So when I came into the company, they said, hey, we can't have you be a user experience designer. We just don't have enough money, right?
Mm.
Every startup's going to say that.
Right.
If you need sales, well, then you need salespeople. And so when they offered me the job, it was a sales job that had auxiliary pieces of the startup environment. And although I don't like to be a salesperson, I'd rather be a user experience designer and a product owner. I said, okay, fine. Until the company's big enough, I'm your guy. And
Yeah.
so whatever needs to be done in a startup environment needs to be done. And so from here, I will progress into that product owner role. But it's a matter of making the company successful first, really successful.
Well, yeah, not at your own expense.
No, you're correct.
So, it's one of those things that, yes, you can work to support the company and help it be successful, but you can't make a company successful.
It's true.
If they don't want to be, or if there's obstacles, right, that you never anticipated.
Right. I mean, if you just don't have a product market fit, you're never going to succeed. But we feel like we do, and we have international customers. And when it comes to software companies, many of them, I think it's over 50%, never even get to where we're at.
Yeah.
Especially not bootstrap, right? They usually have someone owning a good portion of the company and a large investor before they even get to where we're at. So realistically, if everything were to fall apart, it would probably be unlikely for that to be the case, just because most companies already fail before they get to where we are.
Are you prepared for that when it happens?
I'm working on it, but I mean, with this being broadcast out, I wouldn't want to have everything be transparent.
Well, no, of course not. But the idea is to have, how would you say it? Have a brand or some sort of presentation that you're making that elevates your standing above any company title. And so,
right,
if you're talking about value you bring to the marketplace, you just talk about the value you bring to the marketplace. You don't talk about who you're working for or why.
Well, yes,
if you feel your strength is helping companies identify their gaps in the voice of the customer and helping them accelerate loyalty programs through that, product development life cycle, then that's what you talk about.
Yeah. So realistically, if we were to have me give a sales pitch in that elevator speech type, and I would say that my greatest strength is being able to see the long term of what the product needs to develop to be. And through that, it's mostly driven by just hearing customers, intently listening, and then turning that into long-term vision for a company.
Good. I think that's a valuable skill. And there is a sales component to that because you have to sell people in the organization on that the voice of the customer is worthy of pursuit.
Absolutely.
So that, I don't think in life you're ever going to get away from sales as a skill. And the better thing to do is maybe to perfect your sales skills and decide for yourself how you want to utilize those, whether that's in product development or, convincing your kids they should not eat cookies every day of the week.
That's a good point.
Good.
Actually, just earlier this week, there's a guy, I ran into him just because he volunteers for a career network group. And so I was actually prospecting to work with him with our company, but he's a sales advisor. He's written like 5 or 6 books, but I believe it's Robert Joel's. So if anyone wants to look him up, he recommended some of his books to me when we were on our call, of course. But I would recommend him just because in the conversation that we had, he was giving excellent, really, really granular, broken down hints or recommendations for the way I could improve my sales process.
Sure. So what is his name again?
Robert Joel's, and that's I believe it's Robert, but Jolles is his last name.
Jolles. Okay, and he does what?
Oh, he's written a few books, and he's a speaker for sales. So he actually, while we were on our call, even though he volunteers, and that's how I really reached out to him, he was excellent when it came to oh yeah, looks like you've got it.
Yeah, I just wrote it down so it could be in the chat so people can find it. And so
if anyone reaches out to him and mentions that Mitchell had mentioned his name, then I'd be glad to hear about that in a roundabout way.
Yeah, sure. And then so the other commitment I would ask you to make here, Mitchell, if that's okay, is if people reach out to you and ask for an opportunity to network, would you say yes?
Oh, absolutely. I was just,
Okay.
as I came into this room, I was trying to find the right place to put my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think you have to, so if you click on the description, there is a link there to come into this particular, live stream live. Or you can just, hang out in, go to my profile page. I suppose I
Right.
could put that up here too, but you could just go to my profile page and it should be playing in the background.
Yeah. And I did get
image.
there, but I was thinking that the comments section wouldn't have been the chat. And I know at one point you said chat. And so when I was looking for that and I saw comment on LinkedIn, I thought,
Yeah.
okay, well, by comment, that's not going to be the chat. So I was just
Yeah.
trying to scrounge around for that chat.
Yeah. Good for
Yeah.
you. Yeah, no. So, excellent. Well, I appreciate you joining today. We're here every Friday, 3:00 Pacific time. So if you know anybody who wants to be part of this community and to get the networking going with each other, then certainly recommend that they come, either to my profile page or to find the live stream every Friday, 3:00 Pacific time. We're here to support
Sounds
their
awesome.
success. All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for allowing me to come up on
Of
stage
course.
today.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I think it gives you an opportunity to perfect your presentation, to be a little bit better in your communications. It's worth it to put yourself in these maybe moderately uncomfortable situations so that you can then also be a better presenter or salesperson.
Yeah.
So good for you. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care, Mitchell.
Yeah.
Bye now. Mitchell Rowe, everybody. Reach out. He's made a commitment here. I should probably find his his LinkedIn profile somewhere. Let me see if I can. I'm going to grab the link to the actual stream. And so maybe that's a weird that I would link to the stream. But if you need to get to the stream here on LinkedIn and want to make yourself available that way, then by all means come to the link that I've put in the chat, and I'll put it over here on Restream as well. And you can identify if Mitchell puts his link in the profile here. That would be great. Oh, there he is. Okay, so let me get that link, and I will put it over in the chat for everybody. Good. Awesome. Looks like we're on track here. All right, thanks, Mitchell. I appreciate that. So, and then I will also, let me grab this link, copy link address. I will put that in the private chat. So if you want to go just over to the regular stream, you can link over and do that. Good. And by the way, if you have an opportunity to share your broadcast out, that would be great. If you want to do what Mitchell did and come in and just have a cordial conversation and see how you can, maybe share some thoughts or ideas with the community, or if you have any questions that I can answer, that would be great too. I just click the little link in the description, and that should put you into the right place. Of course, I'm here to answer your questions. So if you have questions that you would like to have answered about career, networking, interviewing, market planning, how do I find unposted positions? How do I, close out an interview strong? Those sorts of things. And certainly put any questions you have in the chat. I want to help you answer them. And we will be going here shortly to the news, just to kind of keep us all honest and engaged in what's going on in today's marketplace. I will grab the LinkedIn news, and we will see what is worthy of sharing and discussing and helping each other in that way. So I will, I'd like to make it a little bit bigger so that you can see the screen, and then we'll hop in here to the share screen feature. Let me get rid of these. I'll go with that. Good. So that's shared. I'll get rid of that. Chat. I'll get rid of the chat overlay. There we go. And now we can share the screen. See what we have here. All right. So more than 900,000 jobs added in July. That's a lot of jobs, but I don't know what that means pre-pandemic. So let's see what they say here. Let's see. Kate Chapman, editor of LinkedIn News. Many of you may or may not know that LinkedIn does have their own editorial staff. You can see that here. They're curating news from across the internet, and they're also curating, their own data. LinkedIn has a large amount of data that they make accessible to others. They're tracking data. They're tracking profiles. They're seeing people change their profile locations. And so there's a lot of machine learning, artificial intelligence, analytics that comes through LinkedIn itself. But more often than not, they're quoting things like, oh, I don't know, the Wall Street Journal and other resources that, sometimes have a paid service attached to them. So it makes me wonder why they're promoting them. But I digress. So what it says here is jobs growth blew past expectations in July as the U.S. economy added 943,000 new payrolls, the most in almost a year. The unemployment rate also fell to 5.4% from 5.9%. The Labor Department's report surveyed companies before the Delta variant became rife, though, raising questions about the continued strength of the recovery from pandemic-induced shutdowns. I think we talked a little bit about this last week when I was on vacation, joining you from from an undisclosed location in northwestern Oregon. And that is, at some point, this feels like a never-ending pandemic, and the economy is going to be at the ebb and flow of whatever organizations decide to do as a result of what's happening in the world. And so what I would suggest is, we always have to be open and available and accessible and, versatile and ready to move to the next opportunity if, we get in a situation where we aren't able to respond in the way that we want to some of these circumstances. So always have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and so on. The economy is still 5.7 million jobs short of where it stood before the virus hit in March 2020. Other highlights from Friday's report include the motion picture industry led jobs growth. Well, that makes sense. A lot of the, a lot of motion pictures are going back into production. Many of the theaters are starting to open up and that sort of thing. So that makes sense. Wages rose 4% from a year earlier. Labor force participation, let's see, edged up 61.7%. I don't know what that was before. June's payrolls growth was revised higher to 938,000. Good. So a lot of positive information. So as the market tightens up, that means opportunities and wages should also, be a little more plentiful. So that's 900K more jobs. Firms feed back to office hunger. Let's see what firms feed here. Firms feed back to office hunger by Jake Perez, editor of the of the LinkedIn News, updated 5 hours ago. Some major global firms are feeding their need for workers to return to the office by actually feeding workers. Bloomberg notes the basic tried and true strategy is being employed by companies such as Goldman Sachs and international PR firm Havas. Goldman Sachs is providing free breakfast, lunch, and ice cream, and it's even letting London workers savor their meals at the posh Plumtree Court rooftop garden, usually reserved for VIPs and royalty. Meanwhile, Havas is putting its in-house kitchen and coffee shop to more use and letting employees make menu suggestions. So I think what's interesting there is it seems like these are companies that didn't usually have these kind of benefits or these perks. Many companies had these perks. They may not have been free, but certainly they had, places to eat on their campuses and so forth. But, for what does that mean for smaller companies or even for work from home? So I don't know if I see that as a trend. What I do see as a trend is maybe more individuals who are in work from home or remote status having more flexibility and availability to do these kinds of things because companies are not paying for that real estate anymore. And I see that as a, what would they call that? A cost of doing business is not there anymore for commercial real estate. Therefore, that compensation or that money ought to be shared or in some way transferred to the employee, either through compensation or things like this, where they can, make their own restaurant dining decisions on an occasional basis and end up getting reimbursed for that expense. So that to me is a way for companies to make employees feel valued. Let's see, CNN, more Americans. Oh, let's see, more Americans renounce. What are we renouncing? Renounce citizenship. Interesting. Americans renouncing citizenship in favor of foreign country hit an all-time record last year, increasing 237% from 2019. Axios says the trend is being led by wealthy Americans with assets over 2 million, many seeking to reduce their tax burden, being that the US is one of the only 2 countries that tax people based on citizenship rather than residency. Axios warns the trend could be accelerating if the Biden administration proposes new tax measures are implemented. Yeah, I mean, to think that people who have assets aren't going to do their best to keep them, regardless of where they are living or working. I mean, if you have assets and you have the capability to move those assets, and that means you need to renounce your citizenship, as unfortunate as that is, people are going to do it. Not everybody may do that, but so the other part of this is in these 2 examples, where is the opportunity for us in the marketplace? Where do we see our careers adding value in those kind of situations? So if you have certainly any questions or contributions on that kind of topic, please go ahead and put that in the comments next to this video, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or even LinkedIn. But I could see that there is a group of service providers that likely are facilitating those kind of decisions, helping them establish citizenship in another country, maybe sheltering their assets in some way. So if you have expertise in that space, then here's a way that you can take advantage of that. Maybe you check out the Axios article and see, when I see Axios, maybe it's Axios you should go work for. But I'm not familiar with Axios, as many of you may be more familiar with them than me. Let's see. Experts. Unvaxxed. Here we go. Unvaxxed are COVID highway. Medical experts continue to urge unvaccinated Americans to get inoculated, since they are the big highway of transmission as the Delta coronavirus variant keeps tearing through unvaccinated regions. That might be a little dramatic in the way you're presenting the news, Jake, but that's okay. We understand. And it appears more people are listening since vaccinations have picked up steam. The White House COVID-19 data director tweeted Thursday that 864,000 doses were administered over 24 hours, the highest single-day numbers in more than a month. In other COVID-19 news, Amazon will require U.S. warehouse employees to wear masks starting Monday. Starting September 1, Virginia will require state employees to get vaccinated or tested weekly. Looks like that's a big thing now. So either you get the vaccine or you're tested every week. United Airlines is requiring all workers to be vaccinated by fall. CNN fired 3 unvaccinated employees for violating its coronavirus safety protocols. New Jersey's governor will be required K-12 students to wear masks in school. Interesting. Most United States communities say masks are highly recommended. Unvaccinated Americans, including the brother of USA Today's editor-in-chief, are sharing their stories. Interesting. The Delta variant is being compared to the chickenpox virus. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before. And so I think it seems to be never ending. It's fatiguing to me to continue to have these conversations, to continue to push these when in reality, we ought to be pretty close to herd immunity. And there should be a very minor number of people that are don't have the antibodies. Let's see. Okay. Walmart joins the work perk war. I can tell you. So here's an interesting story. We went camping in Northwest Oregon this last week, and I had the pleasure of going into Walmart to try to find some items. So here's a pretty remote location. I don't imagine they typically get a lot of people there, but seeing as how the temperatures in our geography were well over 90, in some cases around 100, the place I went to was actually very temperate, very cool. And so it wasn't surprising that a lot of people traveled there and perhaps shopped Walmart of all of their inventory. And we were there for a solid week, and I must have visited that store 4 or 5 times and not seen any new, virtually in this section I was looking in, I did not see any new product. And so that means to me that either Walmart needs to hire more people, they can't attract more people, they need to pay people more, or in some ways they need to make sure that there's inventory on the shelves, or they're going to lose money. I can assure you that. Because they, turning inventory is how many retail establishments make money. They can't afford to have shelves empty in a peak season for a certain series of items, especially if they're easily accessed through other means. So anyway, Walmart joins the work perk war. The ongoing battle for workers continues, with Walmart emerging as the latest player to up the ante with special bonuses and pay raises for warehouse workers. The country's largest retailer is splashing out on $100 weekly incentives to encourage workers not to skip any scheduled shift as Walmart gears up for the holiday season. The tight labor market and stretched supply chains have squeezed employers in recent months, prompting many to resort to bonuses and other perks to recruit and retain talent, as they should. I mean, the other part of this is if you were an employer of choice, you wouldn't have to offer those things. And that's something to think about over the long term. As a short-term strategy, many companies will say, okay, we're going to offer you more money, and then think that that's going to cause somebody to have loyalty and stay at the organization. What you need to do is say, okay, yes, I'm going to do this to attract the talent, but in order to retain the talent over the long time, I'm going to give you a career pathing, a career mapping, a way to develop yourself to become a bigger contributor in our organization, and ask them how they want that to happen, and where, and so forth, and what sort of skills do they want to expand. I think that's the challenge that even organizations like Walmart likely are facing is, hey, if someone comes on board there in a retail establishment, they happen to have a master's degree in something. They just don't want to work in where is it? Is that in Arkansas? I think I remember. Anyway, so maybe they just don't want to work in Arkansas. Maybe they're a really smart person and they like working in a remote section of Oregon, and but they have a lot more to offer. So how can you balance the needs of the organization, the needs of the individual, and their career? I mean, there's a lot to think about there, and having the resources and systems in place to handle that is something that's pretty important. So in this case, what can we take away from that? And that is that there's many companies that are having a really difficult time, not only attracting and retaining talent, but also hiring people to hire the talent. And that's what that's what I've been seeing, is that there aren't enough recruiters to recruit the talent that's out there. And so that's a challenge. That means, just like anything else, that, store managers are cleaning toilets and reviewing resumes of frontline workers, or trying to recruit people into their stores. Not that they shouldn't. They're probably investing a lot more time in that space and trying to keep their head on straight and not work 90 hours a week. I think it'd be interesting to talk to a Walmart store or Walmart store owner, store manager, just to see what's going on in the organization. But that, it sounds to me, at least in all the articles that we're reading, is that there is a talent shortage. And if you thought now is the time to go find something better or to try something different, now would be the time to do that. And not that you're looking to leave, but perhaps you make that part of a conversation that you have with your current employer, that you put together the type of work situation that you want, and make sure you're in agreement with that on their side as well. So good. That's all I have to share in terms of news. If you have any questions, certainly go ahead and put those in the chat. I would be more than happy to answer. So if you, what questions do you have? I would certainly like to know. If it's regards to, I don't know, networking, interviewing, market planning, anything of that nature, resume if you must. So what questions do you have? I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, we can call it a weekend, and you all can enjoy the fruits of your labors for the week, maybe setting up next week, your network meetings. Friday's a good time to do that, actually. Friday, probably 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. is, scheduling your meetings for next week. And then Friday afternoon, you're just kind of planning the week, who you're going to talk to, opportunities you may apply to, follow-ups on anything. I mean, follow-up is a big thing that a lot of people miss. You may be good at the interviewing, you may be good at the networking, but the follow-up is something that many people just don't engage in effectively. And if that's a topic you all want to talk about, how to follow up on an interview, or what do I do once I've had the offer and we're working through something and things kind of go quiet. How do I follow up on that? How do I effectively say thank you? I mean, that's another part that many people miss, is the value of demonstrating gratitude. Good. So if you have any questions, I don't see any here. We have 8 people on the stream on YouTube, or excuse me, on LinkedIn. I don't know how many we have on the other channels. I was hoping it would tell me, but it doesn't. It only shows 1. Looks like that's me on YouTube. So we typically get most of our engagement through LinkedIn, just because that's where my largest audience is. So, all right, folks, I don't see any questions here, and nobody's come on live other than Mitchell. Thank you, Mitchell, for attending. I do appreciate your bravery and your honesty and your willingness to be available to anyone that is reaching out to you to have a networking conversation. And best of luck in your endeavors. Good. That's okay, Alexa. Many people come in late. That's fine. Let's see. Shannon has another comment here. True about finding people. I'm seeing opportunities for marketers to help talent acquisition teams. Yeah. I mean, every feature function area in an organization is wrestling with getting access to certain things. So if you're in the position where you feel like you need additional support that way, I'm happy to talk to you offline, where we can have a more intimate conversation outside of the career happy hour. So if you don't have any questions, I will bow out, sign off, and wish you a great weekend. Hopefully you all have some good plans and are prepared and ready for the next week. All right. I don't see any questions here. So I wish you the best, and we'll see you next career happy hour. Bye now.